Good stuff. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Pundit's Pundit. You will be getting 2 shows in 2 days, the first of back-to-back. So with that said, I want to let everybody know that the Pundit's Pundit is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of Pundit's Pundit can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. If I'm reading too fast, no problem. We're talking too fast. You can always rewind it and listen to it again. It won't break our hearts if you do that. Anyways, please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? One way to do it is by going into the chat room and commenting. The other way is send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, give me a call at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website is www.southfloridatribune.com, Twitter/X @TribuneSouth. Candy Ebling is producing the show tonight, which is really good stuff. And, of course, I have a new book out called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders, that could be obtained by Kindle or Amazon. Also, props out to NGBN TV. The show will be going on there probably at the end of January. Stay tuned for more details. All right. With that said, let me introduce the regular crew. And that be, hello, Will Vogel. Glad you have back. I like when Will Vogel's active. Boy, this guy is pretty.
Oh yeah, Will. Hello, everyone. How you doing?
I love that energy, man. He's awesome in the chat room. All right, but let's go to the crew here. We got Denzel Snipes. Glad to have you back on.
Hey, how's it going? And everybody at home, is your Christmas tree still up? It's January the 10th. Take it down.
I don't know. We're not. Ours is small. We just keep it up year round and try to stay in the spirit all the time. We just have to make sure the cats don't knock it down. That's all.
There you go.
Don't worry. Don't put nothing past Bucky and Boots are good boys. And Jacob Christner.
Well, Scott, Scott, I'm glad to be back. And Denzel, we missed the Monday night show for that miserable, horrible last third and fourth quarter of that national championship game. But congratulations to Michigan.
Stay tuned for that. That's my pundit point. But stay tuned on that one.
Yeah, there was nothing wrong about that third or fourth quarter, unless you had money on it. That's another story. That might be bad for you. And we'll talk about the man from Motown, other than myself, Motor City Madmouth, and that's George Icor. Look at that. He's wearing that Michigan shirt proud. We have the Midland Peninsula and all the water around it. There you go. Show it off, George. And
good to be on. Good to be on. It's a great time to be a Detroit and Michigan sports fan, let me tell you.
Yeah, sure. Save that for your pundit's point. We'll stay on point. With that said, I'm going to turn over the microphone over to Mr. Denzel Snipes.
All right. And also, just as a reminder, everybody, follow us, and, of course, share our material from Sideline Sports. You can find us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. We're also on LinkedIn as well. We got a lot of great material week in, week out. Also, catch us on Stream TV, as well as we have weekly reruns recurring throughout the week. So, with that being said, let's get started. So this first one is not really sports related, but it actually should put a sparkle in the eye of people out there who want to see better for future generations. And that is the story of devanlovesnumbers on TikTok. Let me tell you something. This scientific prodigy, in my opinion, he ain't but 2 years old. And this kid is already doing timetables that a lot of people struggled with even 10 years older than him. He is seen on TikTok, and he's always seen on a marker board just doing various math timetables, division, little subtraction, addition, whichever. And they're not giving them exactly, E equals MC squared or anything like that. Although I imagine that he's going to know what that is by the age of 6.
That'll be at 4 years old.
Yeah. You know what I mean? But this is great. And the question of the hour is this the future of education? A kid starting out like this and we've talked about him on this program before, is he the next Josh Dobbs? Now, I'm not saying the guy's going to go to the NFL. I'm talking about a guy that's going to be an aerospace engineer and go grab a job at NASA somewhere and maybe make that full time. But I think it's great. I think it's awesome. It's rare for somebody to be learning that much at that age, but he seems to be doing it like effortlessly. Their parents are definitely teaching him and training him well. But I want to start off with George Eichhorn here and answer the question: is this the future of education?
No, I hope not. I'm sorry. I do not want this to be the future of education, and I'll tell you why. There are some people that are gifted in certain aspects of learning and education and becoming street smart and all that. And there are some who are a little bit slower. So I don't want just technology and TikTok or Twitter or whatever to drive all the education factors that go into raising our future citizens here in the United States or around the world for that matter. I mean, it is an amazing story. You're darn right. Denzel, 9.9 million likes, 671.6K followers. The young man is developed quite an audience and obviously has a lot to share about his learning journey being so young, 2 years old. I think that what happens, though, if you have this dependency on TikTok and it takes you away from reality sometimes, social media is there. Obviously, it's continued to be there and it will continue to grow, no question about it. But I would hate to have it just be all or a good amount of one's education in school, in the classroom setting, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, we don't know. Obviously, it's only a guess on my part on how the world's going to develop as far as the education or the classroom, let's say, in the future. But again, this is an amazing story. The boy has done a great job and his parents as well. I think it's really an interesting story, but no, I don't, Denzel. I would not want the dependency on because I know there's some, but I've seen it right here in Detroit. I mean, there's some urban areas that just are still behind. They're still trying to, as you will, lay cable and install the internet, and some families just can't afford it right now. There are a lot of homeless people still in this country, as we know, and especially in my own state. So I don't want people to be left behind, for example, or they can't catch up and develop these skills as quickly as Devin loves numbers. But I still think that obviously there's a lot of work to be done in that area as well, as far as getting everybody on the same plane and the same surface there. So that's my take on it.
Well, Jacob, there you go.
Well, Will, love seeing the kids that are wise beyond their years and hope this is the future of education that helps the different things we need as a world and help them and need help in our problems. Thank you.
All right.
No, let me say this. I think it's a future of education not because it's going to be on a classroom, not because of that. Because remember, there's only at the most you can only do 10 minutes at a time. So no, not on that level. But think about this for a second. That is there was a little thing during that whole time during COVID when they were saying, keep these kids out of the classrooms. We have to protect them. Remember that, Denzel? We have to protect them. We have to do all this. In the midst of it, you had all these parents that they couldn't go back to work. There was a lot of scared and the kids were behind from the schools were behind. And then there was and then they weren't helping them. You want to know that there were a lot of these subjects that were said. A lot of the talking points that were said was this doesn't help the minority population. Randy Weingarten, the head of the unions, were saying that. What is Devin?
He's black.
Yep. You think those parents are going to send him to any of those schools?
He's probably looking at academic scholarships offers by the time he's 10.
Yeah, maybe 8. You think he's going to any of those schools that they talk about? If he's not getting those type of schools, he's homeschool.
Yeah.
This is the point. This is the point I'm saying. I said this is the future of everything, not because you were going to have like a classroom. You're not going to do TikToks any longer than 10 minutes. And even that's a stretch. I mean, my TikToks go 3.5 minutes. So, and that's long. So the biggest thing about this is this makes the point that I'm saying is your whole talking points out there about that this is not helping the minority population. Minority population does need your help. It's like the ones that it doesn't help are the ones that you're hurting by itself. The other ones, regardless of who they are, aren't worried about color. They're just worried about their success. Mm-hmm. You got a little kid like that who's going to be successful. He's going to be the next Josh Dobbs, like you just brought up. He's going to be these parents, they don't care about all that. They're not watching that crap on TV. They're not watching all that news and all the victimhood and all that kind of stuff. They're not. That kid, he's going to a special school or he's homeschooled. Period. End of story. And it's like his big scholarships to the very best schools, it's done. So this is the point of what we say is something like that. Just like we talk about with these kids. Like I was at the Austin Riley event this year. I did the Austin Riley event this year for the veterans. Met a dad who was like 65 years old, had his own roofing company. 22-year-old that just graduated was going into that roofing company. And guess who's living with them or who's with them? The 7-year-old nephew, who I promise you will be in that company. That's 3 generations that did not have to care about all that. It's all set already. This kid will be starting that too. This parent's already started that on the kid, and that kid's going to start that for their futures. That is the future of education.
Absolutely, and both you and George bring up excellent points on his end, and I wanted to reiterate something that he said, and that is he said he didn't want this to kind of become the standard, which I agree with. I actually liken it to, and you hear me talk all the time about the quarterback draft class of 2012. Whenever as good as Andrew Luck and Russell Wilson and RG3 did, and all of a sudden that became the standard. Now all of a sudden quarterbacks can't develop anymore. 1 year and you're garbage, you're trash, So I don't want that to become the standard. This is a special individual. And let's just appreciate his greatness, because he's going to be a producer. He's going to produce greatness for years and years and years to come, God willing. But with that being said, we don't want to get into the habit of, if they don't get this by, this age, and let's say they get it like at a normal age, he's slow, he's behind, Devin, there's a reason why Michael Jordan's called the greatest. He was a generational talent. There's a reason why LeBron's called that. There's a reason why Kobe's called that, They were generational talents. Generational talents don't happen every day. That's the reason why they're called rarities. This kid's going to be a generational talent. Just don't put the bar at him. But I want to round it out with Scott and get your thoughts about this.
Well, number one, Jacob, I need to take you to school, pun intended, okay? This is really an interesting one. I love it when you guys save me for last because I can compile this and ramble out one-liners as fast as you can snap your fingers. Number one, you say your average video on TikTok is 3.5 minutes. You sit there in the media availability. My average question is about 2 or 3 minutes before the PR guy gets upset with me. But then all of a sudden when it comes out, they're a little nicer to me. So number two, okay, first of all, I am one of those kinds of people that needs to be in the classroom, needs to go out there and talk to the instructor. And, the instructors, I've had in the past know that I'm going to make the most of the money I spent on this education thing. One of the toughest licenses I've ever had to get was a 215 health and life insurance license. And the failure rate in Florida for the first time is extremely high. But luckily, I managed to work around that because I took a class over at Gold Coast down here, and I was able to take the cram course many times, just keep piling in until I was ready to go. And I was able to, so you need personal attention. Number two, COVID-19 has changed everything upside down. It really has, because number one, you think I could sit in front of a computer all those hours and be able to have that kind of attention? As Fred Sanford would say, are you crazy? I cannot do it. I haven't had any Diet Mountain Dew, Denzel. Okay, I'm just working on Diet Coke today from the fountains all over the restaurants since I had
the same thing
appointment today. But there's no way I can sit by for that many hours. No, absolute way. I feel like when you do that, you got me handcuffed. You don't want to handcuff me because I'll talk your ear off and force them to take them off of me anyway. So don't get me wrong, okay? This Devin Love that you're talking about is very good. I wish the kid really well. But I'll tell you, when you're as old school and you have the gray hairs, it's pretty hard to conform to today's ways. No way. Give them a lot of credit. If you think this is the future of education, are you crazy? Are you crazy? No. I don't care what year it is, 2024. Big deal. This is a family show, so I can think of other words, but as a robot on Lost in Space would say many years ago when I was growing up as a kid, that does not compute.
Will Robinson.
George, enough. All right. Don't ruin a one-liner when I do it. I know y'all try to do it, Uncle George, or you're not Uncle to me, but whatever. Yeah, I like Will Vogel's comment. I'm an old soul in a young man's body. That a boy. Well, even though I was able to get to it before we posted it up there, I saved you one there, Jacob. So there you go. I admire the kid, but it is what it is. And like you all have said, okay, we all learn in our own way. And I'm one of those like the people that like to write things down, take explicit notes, and then go out there and you're able to ask questions so that you can go out there and find different ways because we all comprehend differently. All right. That's I don't think it's my rant tonight. That's just the first one.
That's only one of maybe 3 or 5. Who knows? Stay tuned.
10 at least.
Or TBD, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, people to round this out, people are pretty much going to stick by their generations because, there's more than one way to skin a cat,
please don't use cat analogies. I got 2 of them. I hate to just skin dogs, but leave cats alone. I hate that.
Skin the fish.
If I'm offending any dog owners, forget it. But I got 2 cats. I love Bucky and Boots. I'm not looking to skin them. That makes things too easy.
Hey, we're not going. We just won't skin you a cat. That's cool. That's fair enough. But you learn in the way that you do. Some of us came up just old school, pen and paper, taking notes, asking them questions, and so forth. And the funny part is I've actually been a part of both eras because, the old school chalkboard and the tablet and the pen or paper or pencil. At one point, pens weren't even allowed, and then I graduated high school, and then it was literally 20 years before I set foot back into a classroom environment for academics by going to college. And like everything changed. Now everyone can have laptops in class and things like that. And, I just had to kind of adapt. And, being the oldest one in my graduating class, that kind of comes with the territory. So, but people learn the way to...
I got something better on you after you complete your thought. Go ahead.
Oh, no. I was going to say, you adapt to your environment and you move the way you go. I'm not knocking this generation for it because when Devin goes to college, which will probably be at age 14, who knows what's going to be ahead of us 12 years from now?
Yeah.
That's right.
Yep.
That's something that we can't predict. Who knows what the wave will be and how they're going to learn. It's going to be something completely different from the 4 of us men on the screen.
Hey, George, do you remember Cunningham Drugs back home?
Oh, yeah. I sure do. One of my older sisters used to work there.
Oh, yeah. Let me tell you a story, guys. Okay. This is when $40 meant something. I used to deliver papers when I was a kid. I went ahead and spent $40 on a Texas Instrument calculator. I took it into school and I had it confiscated. I got it back later in the year, not allowed to use them. And that was $40 back in the 70s, man. Can you imagine what $40 was? Oh, I got it back, but I guess I was told you can't use a calculator.
Yeah. Yeah, we couldn't back then. That's right. Oh, my God.
No, you had those desks. You hide them all you want. And all of a sudden, I had mine taken away. Then I had a lady that took an alexkarras football card. When I got all my football cards back, she kept that one, but that'll be for another story.
She really liked the guy.
Yeah. Now, she knew good value of sports memorabilia. I said, "Where's alexkarras?" No, you didn't give me that. I knew she was laying a big crock of baloney. Lightly.
Well, definitely great conversation and notes and thoughts delivered on this one. We do have to move on though to our second topic, and that is the topic of Amazon's bid to save Diamond Sports that the Major League Baseball rejected. So, quick backstory. Diamond wanted a long-term deal so they could enlist Amazon's lifeline. Diamond Sports had actually been in Chapter 11 bankruptcy since March of 2023. Rob Manfred himself said, if you want a digital deal, it will be with us. So my question here is this the right call by Manfred, or is this the type of thing that's going to set things back? Is he being a little selfish with this, or is he trying to do a monopoly thing, or what's going on? Is this he's already taken criticism, for being the commissioner and everything like that? Does this kind of add on to the list? I want to start off with Jacob.
You know what, though, before you do this, okay, this is unbelievable. All right, I have to put it up. Alexkarras was on Webster. Unbelievable,
Yes.
Will Vogel. I'll tell you, here's a guy here, Vogel, who's unbelievable in the chat room, but to think this guy here knows Alexkarras being a Webster, kudos. Of course, Will Vogel will be on tomorrow night's edition of Fire Up if he wants to come on with candy and all. But that's unbelievable that he actually remembers that Karras was on Webster. Good stuff, Will.
Old soul, absolutely. And Alex Karras was married to the wife of that on there, too.
Yeah.
They were married, so yes.
Yes.
Right, go ahead, Denzel, but I had to point out one for the Vogues.
Oh, no problem at all. Shout out to our boy Will, man. Jacob, your thoughts on this one?
Yes, it's selfish, but remember this part. It's like $150 million, and they were looking for more than 1 year. So that was going to be set. Basically, you give them more than 1 year, and they're going to take the whole thing. And I'm not saying Amazon's wrong or MLB's wrong. I think there's selfishness on both ends. But they were basically looking for a drop in the bucket for a few years, and then they can make all of their money from that and then get a new deal. And they were going to say, no. It looks like they were just going to go underneath and do that. And MLB has the right to do that. But the biggest thing is they probably wanted the negotiations where you're probably going to go for about 7 to 10 times that amount now. 150 million would have been a drop in the bucket with the way the amounts were. They were basically giving the bankruptcy money. Basically they give the whatever you would get bankruptcy to bail them out and take that for nothing. Look at the B1G and the SEC deals. 920 million, billions, whatever you see. So 150 million would have been zero. In comparison, Amazon would have gotten. Amazon, with the way money is right now, look what Dallas is worth compared to what he bought it for, what Jerry Jones bought it for in comparison to these worlds. So 150 million would have been nothing. And then 2-3 years down the road and everything like that, they would have had all the money in the world to go get all that money they want and no negotiation. So I see why MLB did it.
Okay, then. Yeah, no doubt at all. Of course, you have to look at the long term of things. It may be selfish, but at some point, you do have to look after the entity that you are in charge of. So
I agree. Both parties are selfish. Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Two things can be true. I would say sooner than that, Willie. He said in a few years. I would say probably next year.
Yeah.
But
in my opinion, everything is going to be streaming in a few years. Yes.
But I wanted to take it on to George and then get your thoughts about this one. What do you think? Do you think he's being selfish on this one, or is this something that could actually help Major League Baseball in the long run?
Well, the thing that I don't understand is how far along are we in the process? Was that the only bid they got so far that they're considering? Are there other entities that have also bid on it? I don't blame Major League Baseball and Manfred for they want a little bit more time, obviously, to think about this. But coming right out and saying it's not enough or it's not right, there's not a lot of time to wait around. Okay, we see what happened with these local regional networks. Detroit here is hanging on by a thread. Okay, I'll be honest with you. We got the Detroit Tigers, the Red Wings, and the Pistons, all with Bally Sports, and the fans here have been fortunate. There's been no hiccups. They haven't had to resort to plan B or C, whatever. But yeah, this has to get settled. My guess is that MLB is waiting, obviously, for a better offer or exploring other options right now. But there's no question that they see the value of either themselves being in the streaming business themselves or else going with a higher bidder. So without knowing all the facts surrounding this, it does seem quite odd that you would rule somebody out right away. Typically, these things are done behind closed doors, and they really don't leak stuff out. But obviously, maybe that's what Manfred did, is he wanted to get this out so he could try to up the ante a little bit. I agree. I mean, this is the direction that pro sports are going. I'm not a big streaming guy yet, but obviously I'll have to be one because I see that coming very soon. And look, we got and off to the side, we got a football game this week that's only going to be on streaming, and that's the Kansas City Chiefs, who happen to be the defending Super Bowl champions. So a lot of people are angry about that right now, but that's for another day. Sorry.
I was reading the comments one day. George just reminded me of this. I was reading the comments the other day on Bleacher Report, and they actually said that they could foresee sometime in the future the Super Bowl being a pay-per-view only event because of the exclusive to Peacock playoff game.
Yeah.
To where, they charge somewhere between $45 and $89 to watch the Super Bowl. Me personally, I think that would be counterproductive. Reason being is because if you check Nielsen ratings year in, year out, the Super Bowl typically is top 10 most watched things like all year long, right? Typically. Yep. I think those numbers would go down because number one, some people just don't have, $70, $80. And number two, some people don't want to pay that when they've spent so long watching it for free.
Here's the thing. I see the WWE Network level of paying for it. I do see that. It would be the streaming. I could see it on NFL Network only. And you pay the monthly deal or whatever, and then you have to pay a little extra. That's the whole thing where the original WWE Network tool, I see that possibility. But I don't see a pay-per-view thing because, hell, they've gone from pay-per-view to PLE on WWE already.
Yeah,
so
and their numbers have gone up. So
it's like what I'm saying. So they'll do it on a streaming network, but they're not going to do it straight pay-per-view. No way. They'd be dumb.
Well, I want to round it out with Scott here and get your thoughts about this one. So MLB rejecting Amazon's bid of $150 million. Now, it does stand to mention, like before, that Diamond Sports has been in Chapter 11 since March of 2023. Amazon, obviously, kind of trying to help somebody out. And here comes Manfred saying, nope, if you want it, it's going to be through us. So your thoughts on that?
Well, you have a couple ways to look at it. Number one, I think MLB and streaming is a little premature right now. I really do. Do you think that the general public can handle an abundance of streaming with MLB? That's the question right away, and with their individual markets. You don't want to make the customer do any more than you have to make them do right now. Okay. Remember, we're trying to adjust to a lot of these rule changes, the ghost runner, the pitch clock, and all that. Now you're asking them to change their viewing habits? Not yet. Okay. Maybe a couple of years down the road, maybe, we all have to get used to it. Now, I think there's no doubt that I don't blame Manfred say I want it done through MLB, not through Amazon. Amazon's going to get a piece of any piece of action it wants anyways. I think maybe Manfred might be looking, raise the price up a little bit, and then you'll be able to get my attention. For me, $150 million is chump change is really what it is. So everybody knows in negotiation, there's going to be a little give and take, both sides lobbying, but don't sit here and tell me that MLB at that number went from 150 to 300. Rob Manfred wouldn't think about it twice. Then you let money talk. A few weeks ago, we talked about NASCAR having a lot of their races on streaming, but they're only worried about the bottom line. Well, that's okay. Good. Put them on streaming. Nobody's watching them on national television, but yet NASCAR can get rich with all the revenue. So as far as the Super Bowl ever being on streaming, don't hold your breath. Some things will never happen. That won't be one of them. But it'll be interesting, as George mentioned. Let's see what happens over the weekend with the Dolphins and the Chiefs. We're not even getting it in our local market. I don't care. I'll be watching the Red Wings and the LA Kings to begin with at 7 o'clock, so I don't care. I'm not going out to the sports bar down here just to watch that. Why? I don't want to be around too many people. My doctors know that I can't handle too much noise because it sets off migraine headaches anyhow. But getting back on point, MLB and streaming a little bit too premature because of the amount of inventory that you have. Whereas football, it's an event. MLB, you have a lot of inventory. Different situation. And you know what? Diamond Sports is going to have to find a way to get it worked out. They really do. You're only talking about one sport. What about the other ones that George alluded to? Yeah. How are they going to get it figured out? You think the NHL has any money to go out there, and do it? No, I don't think so. And the NBA, well, they're already doing well with their national TV contracts. And what am I leaving out? NBA, NFL.
NFL, no shortage of money there.
Well, yeah, but then don't forget college sports. You got,
Right.
but they got rich contracts right now too. Yeah.
Well, but you already have some streaming on there with Peacock already to begin with, so it's not like they haven't brought it in. That's all I'm saying. So yeah, I just think that it's an interesting way of looking at it. I think they're a little, maybe 2, 3, 4 years. I think it all comes down to one thing, guys: the money. If you sat there and threw a $300 million bill at me instead of $150, Rob Manfred might think otherwise. Do I need all the headaches to produce it myself? No.
Yeah.
After $300 million, $1.50, chump change. Want to go to the dollar store? That's what $150 to do. I'll bet my alexkarras card would be worth that much money nowadays if you really found a memorabilia junkie that wanted it. But I'm just kidding with you guys. But really, premature, ahead of our time for MLB. And I'll be curious to see what we have.
Hello, Ralph.
Again, so.
Hello again, Ralph.
Hey, Scott,
Yeah,
like
we do too.
Setup. Scott
likes the new setup.
They like the new setup, Scott.
Yeah, well, we're working on it. And if Ian Hill is taking any note, drop me a line anytime you want, my buddy. We're working to make every show that we have better, and we only aim for one thing: perfection. And that's what we're going to do here.
All right, absolutely. Yeah, shout out to the guys at NGBN TV. You all stay tuned. Right around late January, we got a whole lot coming your way. So hashtag who is NGBN? Follow that on our social medias and see where it gets you. All right, so on to our third and final topic. That is Arthur Smith and how game plans have to do with players' fantasy stocks. Jacob, this is yours, right?
Yep.
I was I was trying to kind of find what angle you were going with this one, but here, let me take a wild guess. So basically, what game plans have to do with players' fantasy stock, depending upon the scheme, it could go up or down. Simple. If you got a player that's in an air raid scheme, what's a pass heavy offense? So I'd start a receiver. Of course, you're going to start a quarterback, especially one that's good for slinging 350. An air raid offense, I'm talking like, Texas Tech Red Raiders, the 2007 Patriots, the Houston Cougars, the pass heavy offenses of, yesterday, and even some today,
Yep.
Or if you're in a run heavy offense, maybe you like Gus Edwards from the Ravens. Maybe you like Bijan Robinson. Maybe you like as far as pass heavy game, air raid. Oh, how about Tyreekhill? Tua slinging it all over the field. He may have himself a game, coming up on Saturday. But it especially fits in the scheme and attaches to the player, because I also had written down here Puka Nacua, because Matt Stafford, even though he's like 36, a healthy Matt Stafford can still cut you in half. He can still sling it. Puka Nacua
I heard Matt Stafford just cut you in half.
Yeah. So, I mean, whenever you have somebody who can sling it like that, of course, your receivers are going to do numbers. But I wanted to start off with Jacob in this one and get your thoughts about this.
Well, you're partially right. But the reason I brought this up is because I remember the first 3 games of the season, people had Bijan all over their fantasy numbers, and they were killing it. We had one of our people from the sideline that had the guy. He loved it, everything. Then like game 4, not so much Bijan. He had the quote-unquote headache, which I think it was something else. And then it was all the Algier, and then he lost that week. And then all of a sudden they have the press conference with Arthur Smith. He's like, I don't care about your fantasy numbers. I'm trying to win games, which I think that was the game they lost. But
Kevin Durant actually said the same thing years ago, but go ahead.
Yeah, but the biggest thing is ever since that point, there's been no there's been no Kyle Pitts, very little Bijan. I agree with Jacob 100%. Thank you very much, man. It's like there's been no Kyle Pitts, there's been no Bijan, there's been no Drake London, very little of anything. There's been, and then over the weeks, they've been talking about that. He says, I'm just trying to win games. They were 1 game away from a division title, to that credit, in a bad division. But what happens if he wins that division? Who knows? Either way. But here's what happened. Last game of the year, Very last game. All of a sudden, Bijan had 6 touches, and then the first pass that went 74 yards for a touchdown. I thought he was going to get 200 on both, the way that they were giving it to him. Guess what? There was no more fantasy other than the people that had finished out their 2-week final.
Ooh.
No more fantasy. All of a sudden, there's Bijan. All of a sudden, there's Pitts getting some targets. All of a sudden, there's Drake London. All of a sudden, with no fantasy left. And then they lose, and he's out. So how does this affect his coaching for the NFL? People knowing and seeing that he really was messing around with people's fantasy. And it's like, will that affect his job things other than going maybe to college or high school? Because is he going to do this with another team? Fantasy is a multi-billion-dollar organization. NFL doesn't want a coach messing with that. And it's even the worst coaches are not doing that right now. And it's like, and we have to wonder how much of it with, we can say anything from Mike Vrabel, who just lost his job, but he had Derrick Henry at the end of the year. You have to wonder how much that accounted for. And he'll get a job anyway because he wasn't doing anything to mess around or sabotage. But that's what I'm talking about with how much is it with that. Because Arthur Smith is now gone. Is he even going to get anything outside of the consultant job from here on out with the NFL?
That's exactly what I was going to say as well, as far as Arthur Smith and what's going to happen with coaches like him. Arthur Smith was out 7 hours before Black Monday even began. He probably couldn't even take the plane ride or the bus ride home. So we know definitely what happened with Arthur Smith. He was the first one gone.
Yeah.
As far as these coaches. But I want to send it to George and get your thoughts about this. Fantasy football may be a thing, may not be a thing. But if you can kind of make the tie and give us your thoughts, greatly appreciate it. What you got?
Well, what I got is I don't like what I'm hearing, because anytime you start mixing gambling, the NFL, fantasy leagues, and all this stuff, you're treading down the wrong road as far as I'm concerned, because these things can start affecting people and coaches, as you alluded to with our friend Arthur. I mean, there's no question about it. If you start down that steep slope, and it's a dangerous slope, you're asking for trouble. And let's face it, I mean, with the Supreme Court ruling legalizing gambling and for sports in most of these states, it's crazy right now. We see large amounts of money being exchanged in leagues that are set up by some of us as individuals, or DraftKings, ESPN. I mean, the big time players. It's crazy the amount of money that's being spent. And now if you get players that are reacting, or coaches that are reacting, or trying to anticipate things going on, it's a slippery slope. I don't like it, because it's going to take away, obviously, the creativity of some coaching staffs. It's going to take away the credibility of the sports, especially the NFL. If this gets really slippery, it is a dangerous road. I think that the league is trying to get their hands around it. We saw what happened with the suspensions to several of the Lions players and other players around the league, just for not betting necessarily on games, betting in the premises of the NFL, such as the team training facilities or the hotel you're visiting with your team. So, I mean, this stuff is trying to be monitored. They got a big time staff working on this, I'm sure, in the NFL, but other leagues as well are going to have the same issues to deal with. So, it's just, I don't know enough about it right now, but I can see things happening that I would not be supportive of if we're getting these things intertwined between a player's performance or the number of touches and all this stuff.
Yeah, it definitely is a bad deal whenever you kind of mix, that with and politics also as well plays a huge role. Yeah, it actually reminds me of whenever I was watching, I think it was either the first or the second Miami Hurricanes 30 for 30 on ESPN, and they was talking about like how the high schools around there were so good and everything that you had local like drug dealers in any inner city Miami that were placing bets on these games and everything. And so
Oh,
now it's like double the pressure on these kids because if they lose the game, now they have the paranoid of some drug dealer coming around to kill them. You know,
yeah, yeah,
so
really. It's scary.
yeah, it is. You know, when you mix money in, like it's always a dangerous game. So, but I want to round this out with Scott and get your thoughts about this. What do you got?
Well, number one, this whole thing has spiraled way out of control. It really is. I'm not a big fantasy football person. I did it a few times. One, actually, two championships doing it. One with the family league with my in-laws, and then another one. I was challenged a couple times. I enjoyed doing the Yahoo fantasy. It was okay. I mean, but I didn't do it very much. I mean, I felt in my mind, being in the industry, it was a conflict of interest, and I don't like to tie myself into something like this when I have inside information to apply it to this, even though no money was ever involved. But when it does become dangerous, people lose their lives over it, then you have to find a way to reel it in and get it under control if it's even possible to do it. So sorry if I'm alienating any fantasy football owners. I do apologize, but I just don't believe in it. I realize it's a revenue source for the NFL. The NFL is about printing money anyways. We all know that. And if it keeps interest in the game, that's another story. But Arthur Smith is never going to see another head coaching job. The best case scenario with this guy is you're lucky to see another position coach job, or he might end up in college, or as Denzel would say, cottage. Is that, did I do it? Yeah, say it, Denzel. I got to hear it.
Cottage.
That's it. I can't duplicate that. So. All right. See, I'm learning, man. I'm telling you. But no, all kidding aside, you know what? You don't get many brief comments on me, so write this down on your calendar, folks. On January 10th, 2024 at 8:44 p.m. Eastern Time, I'm keeping this as brief as I possibly can because I'm sure there's a lot more hay in the barn. And fantasy football just doesn't get it done with me. Just keep the violence out of it. It really does.
Absolutely. Well, with that being said, we have reached a point in the show where we are on our pundit points. With that being said, I'm going to swing it over to the captain himself, Scott Motor City Madmouth Morganrod. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Denzel Snipe. Since I'm starting it, I'll go ahead and lead off with this one, and then everybody can go there. Then we'll have our introductions afterwards. Following Pundit Sports Exchange, we'll start at approximately 9 Eastern Time. George Eichhorn, myself, Jacob Christner, and JB Ellis will be on there as well. And you never know who may pop in along the lines. We're going to go with the pundit's view. And this regarded last night's NBA game between the LA Lakers and the Toronto Raptors. LA wins 132-131. The Lakers shot 23 free throws in the fourth quarter. The Raptors had 2, and it led to an epic rant by Toronto coach Darkorajakovic. How do you like that pronunciation there? A Serbian guy. Of course, in my line of work, you really better get the pronunciations right or you're in deep trouble. All right, but the Lakers had 36 free throws in the game. Toronto had 13. You know what? I don't want to sit here and say the game was held in LA and they're going to get the calls and all that, but that just, to me, seems like too wide of a disparity in a game that was decided by 1 point. And I understand the Toronto coach are being upset, and I'm glad that he did have a rant, because if it did anything, okay, it showed his players that he had their back and he was going to stand up for his players, and more power to him. Whatever the fine is, I'm sure the Raptors will find a way to go ahead and pay it one way or the other under the table through the Canadian Parliament, whatever they have to do to pay the fine. But, you know, kudos to the Toronto coach for going out. I just find it hard to believe 23-2 is too mind-boggling. It really is. And I don't care if there were intentional fouls involved. It doesn't matter at all. Period. All right, George.
Well, my rant is going to be something that obviously is of deep concern here in Detroit and around the NBA. You know, what is happening with these Detroit Pistons? Tom Gores is the owner. Tom Gores has billions of investments all across the globe, okay? The Pistons are just one of his investments. Let's face it. The guy has done nothing, I'm sorry, to build a winner here in Detroit. It was a huge gamble when he left the Palace of Auburn Hills. He was a very successful businessman, taking over for Bill Davidson's widow. Of course, William Davidson himself built that palace, as Scott knows. We spent many a night there, Scott and I, covering the Pistons and the Lakers and Boston and Chicago, all these great games we saw there. But he decided to go downtown Detroit. I was in support of that. But tearing down a facility that was still a super quality facility set a lot of people back here in town. Now he's trying to build a roster. And how many times have they been trying to build it? Joe Dumars, gone. Van Gundy, gone. There's just a long list of people that have been fired. Dwayne Casey's another one. These guys have good records. A lot of them had good pedigree. They just couldn't do it here. There's something that's not working okay, Mr. Gores. And I think you really got to look yourself in the face and tell yourself it's time to sell. You really do. You've got so many other interests. You don't have the heart, I don't believe, to go and build this team and do what you have to do to build it, and also not be an absentee owner, because I know you love spending your time out in LA, and that's your prerogative. You can do that. Southern California is a great place to live, but this team needs help here. You hired one of the best coaches, I think, but you gave him a bushel load of money, and you're not doing anything more than that. So, Tom Gores, it's time. It's time you look yourself in the mirror in the face and say, hey, what can I get for this team? Let's sell it to somebody that really cares about getting a winning NBA basketball team here in the Motor City. Thank you.
I'll turn over to Denzel Snipes.
All right. Well, so my pundit's point is at the beginning of the program, I said that I was going to mention that game on Monday that we talked about, Jacob. Oh, it's about that time, and here we go. So this right here is dedicated to all you SEC fans. SEC. The only conference that has a fan base, because there's no such thing as a Big Ten fan. There's no such thing as an ACC fan. There's no such thing as a Pac-12 fan. Or are they Pac-2? Maybe they are. There's no such thing as a Big 12 fan or anything like that. Only you all, and I understand my Longhorns are going to the SEC, but we are nothing like the rest of you, okay? This is dedicated to all of you. So this past Monday's national championship game between Michigan and Washington, all we heard was, nobody wants to see this game. It's nothing without the SEC. It's nothing without an SEC representative, or Alabama, Georgia, or LSU. That's not sitting here saying that if they, were in the game that it wouldn't have viewership. But did you know that Monday night had 25 million viewers? The most watched for a national championship game since 2020. So I would like to think that the opposite effect may have happened, and that is just more watched because an SEC team was not in it. You're looking at two teams who hadn't won in decades. Washington last won in 1991. Michigan last won in 1997. People like, historical storylines like that. And I get it, okay? Nick Saban's not going to apologize for consistently putting out a good team. I would have watched the game anyway. Neither is Kirby Smart. Neither is whoever's coaching, neither is Brian Kelly. It wasn't Brian Kelly. It was Ed Orgeron when they won back in 2019. I get that, okay? But the results in viewership stuck it to SEC fans who said no one was going to watch this game.
And by the way, I'll add one more thing to it. It doesn't hurt to have the all-time winningest program in that game with the Michigan Wolverines. Numero uno, 1,004 wins, and a storyline with Jim Harbaugh only helped the ratings out even more, to build on your point.
Yep,
absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, we'll turn over to Jacob.
And congratulations to Michigan, by the way. For what I was saying was a boring third and fourth quarter, but I am happy for them. I really am. I am happy for that team. And I was saying, just real quickly, we were seeing if they were going to have a Gale Sayers game, 6 touchdowns, the way that was starting.
Oh, yeah. But which one was going to be Gale, though? Blake Corum or Donovan Edwards?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This is my thing to the Bears. They got another season down, another losing season. In 50 years, the Bears are 31 games under 500. And it's outside of – this is the thing. Outside of Ditka and a little of Lovey, If it wasn't for them, it would be even worse than the Jets. Put it to you that way. But let me say this. What made Ditka? He built a team. And you guys both know this. Those teams were just lethal. Defense, everything. Run game. McMahon, if he was in there, great passer. Every little detail you could. It's like if you gave him 10 points, it was over, and then they just added. But everything that you built on, ever since that point, though, forget the idea of quarterback. All that stuff. We already know that. But here's the thing: after 2004 happened, the Bears fans kept wanting something flashy, something cool, just because you had Michael Vick out there. Just because you had something, you had different kind of quarterbacks out there. They wanted to be cool to their high school buddies. So, okay, was Kyle Orton perfect? No, of course not. But then you replace somebody that probably would have helped with a Super Bowl win because of that defense. And then you got rid of him. You let him go, and then you let him go twice, and you go get the flashy Cutler, who is off and on. And then I could just keep going like I used to say on that. But you want to know what the issue is? Bears fans, the team's never built for something. They're not built for the quarterbacks you want. You're the flash you want. They're not built for it. Ever. It's like, you're not going to get a Mahomes. You weren't built. You would have ruined Mahomes. You didn't have the coaches for Mahomes. You didn't have the line for Mahomes. You didn't have the people for it. Look at Mahomes right now going into a playoff game. He has receivers that drop the ball and can't do everything. He's got Nagy instead of Bieniemy. Look how much they're struggling in comparison.
Who was Nagy a part of at one point?
Oh, yeah, I get the point, yes. But yes, look at that. That's the thing that we're dealing with. That is showing that they would have ruined Mahomes. You keep wanting all this. You want the Bears, if they wouldn't have gotten hot, would have gotten Manning. If they wouldn't have gotten hot in 99, they would have gotten Peyton Manning. They would have ruined him too. There was no people around him. They would have ruined him also. Start rooting fans. Quit looking at your highlights. Quit looking at your YouTubes and your TikToks. Quit looking at your thing. You're not ready for Justin Fields. Quit it all. Try to look at building something. Build the whole thing. Until then, go get Kirk Cousins. Till then, go get players. Okay, it bores you. So what? Until you build something around and you go get that quarterback, until you get that star, until they build something, enough, because I'm tired of losing.
Just to add to your point there, Jacob, because I'd heard several rumblings regarding Jim Harbaugh, and I know that the Bears had just announced they're actually keeping Eberflus, but me personally, I think if they have a shot at Harbaugh, the Bears will go after him. And hear me out for a second, okay?
Okay.
Everywhere Jim Harbaugh has gone, he's made them better. No one was checking for Stanford until Jimmy got there. Yep. And he had Andrew Luck, and he had Richard Sherman. No one was checking for him until Jimmy got there. Alex Smith was a certified bust until Jimmy got there. Yep. Then they got to the Super Bowl. He brought the best out of Kaepernick. Michigan was a Big Ten afterthought until Jimmy got there. Yep. Next thing you know, 3 straight Big Ten titles, 3 straight wins versus Ohio State, 3 CFP appearances, and a national championship. Now, call me crazy, but if Chicago has a shot at Jimmy, they're going for him.
I don't want ever COVID anymore. I'm not going to call him Eberflus. He's ever COVID. But I mean, I'm not going to. I am telling you this. I am not. I mean, forget this. He as far okay. How about do the first demotion in history? Make him defensive coordinator because he is amazing at that. That defense is stout. But if till the Bears and that old 101-year-old owner and the dusty old ashtray of a franchise starts understanding something about building a team, forget the flash. Go get the most boring kind of quarterback. Go get your Kyle Ortons again. Go get it. And then when you built that team, get them. Go get it. Till then, I'm tired of losing.
Okay. Well, you know what, Jacob? We're going to go get it too. We're going to wrap it up. How's that sound, right?
Yep.
All right. With that said, before I turn it over to everybody else, I want to let you know one more time that the Pundits Pundit is broadcast around the world. The audio version of Pundits Pundit can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Participate in the chat room. One way to do it. Or send your topic ideas to South Florida Tribune at gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, give me a call at 954-304-4941. We broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube. Our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. Twitter/X at Tribune South. Candy Ebling is producing for us tonight. My book, Lessons from the Microphone, really entails old school media versus new school media. And it's basically around what we're doing is tuning into the enduring wisdom of visionary leaders. I mentioned lots of great examples of that, and you can find my book on Amazon and Kindle. Also, get ready. The Pundits Pundit and Sports Exchange will be on NGBN TV in the next few weeks. That's where our sneak peek should go. So, all right, quickly around the horn. Denzel, everybody know how they get a hold of you.
Denzel Sniper 13 on Twitch, Nelly Nell 13 on Twitter, X, whatever you want to call it. Denzel Snipes on Facebook, and Denzel Snipes 13 on YouTube.
All right, Jacob, Cliff Notes version.
Cliff Notes version. Yes, Jake the Pundit 1 on Twitter, Jake the Pundit on TikTok. On TikTok, that's what the whole thing I've got right there. 5 shows a week on Sideline Sports and the South Florida Tribune, and a few things along the way, including movies.
Good stuff. All right, Jacob and George will join me on the Sports Exchange afterward. Speaking of George, go ahead.
You can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com. Follow me on Twitter or X on SandGSports99. Read my columns at the Detroit Monitor locally here in Michigan, or else you can read my columns on the Motor City Tribune, which is under the South Florida Tribune, and follow me. There's a link also on that at the end of my column to preview my book, and hopefully you want to maybe get a copy of that. So glad to be here.
All right, we'll be back to the grind in a few minutes when the Sports Exchange comes on, and also we'll be back to the grind tomorrow when we have another edition of Pundits Pundit at 8 Eastern Time. So on behalf of George Eichhorn, Denzel Snipes, Jacob Christopher, my name is Scott Morgan, Rock the Motor City Madball. Thank you for joining us on Pundits Pundit. We will see you tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Have a good night, and we'll turn over the Sports Exchange in just a matter of a few minutes. Good night, everybody.